So we are live now.
Just hold on, please.
Okay.
Let me share the screen fully. Okay. So, back here. So you
Okay.
could add. So you could add my screen to the live. Okay, yeah, fantastic. Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Um, if you are here with us, please indicate. You can tell us your name and your country and your business name. Health Bay Pharmaceuticals. We can see you. Okay. Just tell us your name, your business name, and your country. We'll be proceeding now. Okay, so good afternoon once again. Okay, we have Guyani, Trade Hunt, South Africa. Welcome, Guyani. So while we are waiting for others to join in, we wouldn't like to waste the time of our facilitator, who is already here today. As you may already know, my name is Pascal Fodum, and I'll be working with you guys a lot on this program. I'm the program manager at Inspire Hub, and I have with me here today my colleague, our ever vibrant and ever creative Debbie. Hi, Debbie. Can you say hi to facilitator?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deborah, and I'm here supporting Pascal for this session today. It's nice to meet everybody. Nice to meet you, Chibuke.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Deborah. So Deborah will be here with us today, and maybe subsequently we'll see more of her on the programs. So I'm seeing more people joining. So other people, if you are coming in, just give us your name, your business name, and your country. Shaban, Peter, and others that have joined. So we have Chiname Unugo, Anaya Technologies, Peter Hirongo from Zambia. Yeah, so just give us your name, your business name, and your country. So we are starting immediately. So we'll be introducing our facilitator for today in the person of Chukwu became Felix Amefule. So Chukwu is a fast rising industry leader in the design and digital manufacturing space with the vision to empower the ecosystem. He has several years of experience with project and program management, product development, solutions consulting, instructional training, and management. He has worked in the non-profit sector and profit sector as well, and he's passionate about creating and inspiring young minds into creative thinking through innovation. He believes when creative thinking meets innovative thinking, disruptive value is bound to be created. He's currently the lead He's currently leading the transformation team who are building an industry outcome-based product development school and on-demand digital manufacturing platform that promises to democratize projects in Africa. He's the founder and CEO of Generative CAD Services Limited. Please join me in welcoming Chukwubikem Felix Amefila. So Chukwubikem, you have the room now. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Quite really appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, every single person joining this meeting through YouTube. I think I could see Mary Shaban. What's the name again? Honor and David. Yeah. So thank you for joining. I'll quite jumping into this presentation immediately. So for the sake of time, I will also just this is more like a summary of what was already said. And I would just wanted to just say before I start this, please be feel free to reach out to me. Just the name on LinkedIn, just the name to become Felix Anevle. You could connect me and all that on LinkedIn. If you type that name, just be sure that it's only one person that has that name, all right? So I just believe we could do more, so much and connect so much and build more products, definitely, because that's what I do for a living, build products. So this is more like a section outline of what we're really going to just really kind of prepare our mind and can somewhat also with expectations of what we're going to do. So first is an understanding design thinking, which is very critical, also the importance of product development, integrating product, thinking into product development. How do we integrate that? Steps for effective product development using design thinking, overcoming challenges in product development, case studies. We have one or two case studies. Also, with that, we really, put into how product development and design thinking was fused into together to really come up with a kind of a fantastic product or even more impactful product, as the case may be. So again, is tips for also implementation. Okay, what are the tips and the conclusion and also question and answer. So this is more like what we're going to do, have it. But I'm also really going to have in your mind, just put it in the comment section, please. When we talk about what are your expectations for this section, I would love to have that in your section. If you could just type, what are your expectations on this section, so I could just pick that up while the section is going on and also see what I would could actually, you know, you know, dive dive into that or gives that also as the custom made examples or case studies we could add more to the stuff. So feel free to always add that in your comment section. What are your expectations for this section? It's very important for us to really get that interaction from you and also get that feedback also from you while we are starting. So let's get started. I think it's also very critical for us to understand what we need to do and how we go about it. So it's very critical for us to understand that. So first is, it's also good if you could, probably, and I know a good number of us know what design thinking, or probably going to take one of short courses around design thinking, or probably maybe have heard about it and probably don't get to really understand what it is in real sense. So first, I really want us to really understand, okay, design thinking is a human-centered problem-solving approach. Now, with that, if you don't take anything out of this, what I'm saying or what I'm going to say in subsequent minutes is when you associate, you always try to associate design thinking with human center. So human is at the center of what you're designing or what you're producing. So human is at the center, the user. We will also call user center. So the human centered now problem solving. So we're trying to solve a problem. You're taking an approach of solving a problem, and that approach you're taking, the human or the user is at the center of that approach. So I just wanted to really make so it's so that we can also connect to that at the end of the day, humans or users, as the case may be, as you call it, is at the center of how we go about solving the problem or how we see this problem. So it's really involves understanding users' needs. So you need to understand users' needs, define the user's problem, brainstorm solutions that can really solve this user's problem. So don't get one solution, brainstorm quite series of solutions, and then start looking at maybe using an assumption mapping to see, okay, how do I get to look at when you start talking about the MVP, how do I get to which problem do is more important, is have more significance if solved, and also probably take less resources to solve. So it's always an approach I always want us to take. When we're talking about approaching or starting a solution, right? Trying to move from brainstorming solution to prototyping. From that point of prototyping, so we really want to start thinking about what what are the problem, what are the solutions we are bringing, and what are the things, value, features we want. Which of them, if you put them in a quadrant and say, and then divide them into four quadrants. So one quadrant could be high importance. Okay, x axis could be high importance. The other one could be difficulty to solve. So if you put high importance in y-axis and the difficulty to solve in x-axis, I don't know. I hope you guys understand what I mean x and y-axis in your graph. I hope everybody is able to understand graph things. So if you have you know importance and difficult to solve, put them in x and y-axis, and then the ones that fall to high importance but less difficult to solve is really the one that gives issue jumping when you start talking about your prototype and your MVP. I always want us to really think about it. We're going to elaborate that, but in future, but I really want us to really, hold this to the point. Now, first is also for us to understand that the emphasis is always on user-centered approach, which is the human-centered approach. Right? So whatever we're looking at the problems, the brainstorming, the prototyping, or the testing, even when you're testing, it has to be tested with the users or anticipated users or prospective, customers as to who we're designing it for. So it's very critical for us to really understand this. And so it's going to really make a whole lot of sense. So here now we talk about the importance of product development. So we looked at understanding design thinking. We also look at the product development because first the concept of product development and how effective product development can lead to competitive advantage. So it's very key to really understand the concept of product development. So because there's difference between product design and product development. So because product development compares from concept to the point of market entry. So that's like the cycle of product development. So product management could go more beyond, more broader. But product development comes from the concepts conceptualization, the idea, ideation, conceptualization to the point of market introduction. That's really what kind of so whatever we're going to do at every stages to get from conceptualization, from concept ideas to introducing to the market. Because by then we're getting an MVP. It's really what the cycle of product development is within. And that's also the one of the biggest points where we are introducing design thinking because we need to really solve a problem. So we're talking about identifying the users, the problems, the solutions, the prototype. So we're taking a user-centered approach into the product development. So we really got to understand that product development is that process of transforming ideas into market-ready products. It is crucial for startups as it enables you to refine your concept, and create unique value proposition and stay competitive in the ever evolving market. So it's always that point where you need to like look at your unique value propositions and all that. So it's very important. So and the product development is very effective when it comes to getting introduction into your market and getting the competitive stuff, product into the market. So you have to look at creating unique value propositions to the point of getting an MVP. But how fast you are in getting an MVP or getting to the market, and how flexible also your product is, and at the same time how fast you could iterate the failures or the broken links or the broken features that comes with your product. It really goes a long way in determining how your products become successful or not. So first, let's go back to this because when we talk about design thinking, we talk about product development. There's one particular thing sometimes we miss. And I also wanted to we also just really look at these things, which is, probably maybe after this training, this section, we'll probably go and look about in the product development concept and entrepreneurship concept, was the difference, not a dictionary literary meaning. Please do not go and look for the dictionary meaning or difference between innovation and invention, but look at it from the point of entrepreneurship and product development, definition. So you will really understand that the innovation is that act of bringing a product or an idea or an invention into market. So we talk about the business model, we talk about quite a lot of other things, market frictions, the customers, the suppliers, even the supply chain and all the forces that come together that you are solving to the point of delivering that particular product into the hands or to serve the customer. That's really innovation. Invention could come into the point where you just get a product, you have an idea, you just invent something is unique. Yes, but it can end up in the museum too. So, but for it to be so, innovation really is that point of getting that invention into the hands of the customer, that it becomes solved problems in a mass scale that people can pay you for such, and you have the structure to be able to maximize value from that. That is when you are innovating, like when it comes to startups. So always there, and then like always, you know, take note of this because it's really going to change a whole lot of things as you want to implement it. So, what is the role of innovation in product development? I want us to really, reflect on this. You know, because when we talk about innovation, it could also be quite big, but we want to really break it down. First is look at your customers and see things from their viewpoint. All right. So please, I know that we startups and founders, we always sometimes we are very idealistic or we take a idealistic approach. We always sit somewhere and we envision how the problem is. But most times we're not even if we're not even the customer, the problem we are solving, we're not even like a perfect customer or an ideal customer. So please always look at things from your customer's perspective, and then we're going to go into that and how we are going to really look at. But it's very important that you look at whatever you're solving or product you're going to produce, implement, or come up with. That product, why producing or developing that product, that you see things from customer viewpoint. Then it's all about creating value, right? So when you raise value, it's actually at that point where people will be willing to exchange their money to whatever you're giving them, right? Because if you go to the market and buy a phone and take maybe 100,000, 200, 150 as a case of 50,000 naira and exchange it with that phone, that means that that phone is of higher value at that moment to you than the money you are giving. So, so when you think about creating value, something that people will be willing to exchange money, not people what people can give people free, or somebody is willing to pay for that value for someone else. And again, really innovation also comes into a point where, you know, especially when it's disruptive innovations are really ones that changes the status quo. Things like Go, Taxify, and the rest of the case to Netflix, to quite a whole lot of things. These are the things that are quite disruptive. They're also disruptive technologies, but also there are disruptive companies or startups who change status quo on how we see things or how we do things. Even the smartphones are also quite disruptive technologies, and the people who are able to lead from flagships into companies who are led that flagship are actually disruptive startups or company as the case may be. So you are challenging the culture that already exists and that what people might not even be looking for, that you are giving them what they might not be looking for, but they need. They don't even know that they need it at the moment. So companies like Apple and others. So you're really trying to change the culture of how things are already done. That's kind of really disruptive. Then doing things differently is still part of the stuff and doing it better, it's still part of the thing. So we are changing the culture, not for bad, but different and a better way. And then always try to connect the dots. There's always a building block. to how we build our product and make sure that the customer is at the center or the user is at the center of it. And then while you are modeling your business from the product point to the who to really understand who is your customer and who is your user. Because sometimes your customers might not be your users, right? Just like if you're producing baby diapers, the users are baby diapers, but the customers are not the babies. As in, sorry, your users are the babies, right? But the customers are not the babies. So you need to also know the difference between who is your customer and who is your user. Sometimes, if you are selling maybe a particular, you know, let me say accessories for married people, and most times it is the husband that buys those accessories for the wife. So you also need to understand that the users are the wife, but the customers are the husbands. So you really need to also really connect these dots. And that is why it is very important to know and make your users or the human at the center of your design approach. It's very important. So back to what we are looking at, which is integrating design thinking into product development. So how do we really fuse into design thinking and integrate it into product development? So first is it has to be a synergy between the two. And you also within this process, we're going to be giving later slides, we're going to give real life examples of successful startups using design thinking into their product development process. It's very important that we're going to do that. And also how design thinking can help identify market needs and solve user problems. So first, sometimes we need to also understand use design thinking to really identify market trend, market needs, and really focus on the user to solve a user problem. But also, when we are developing our business model, our marketing strategies, and all that, we're also looking at okay, yes, this is our user, but who is also our customer? Is our user our customer, or are they two different people? So now we are moving into like points where we're talking about how do are we integrating design thinking into product development, and we're now looking at the steps into that effective integration, right? And it's very core that you can't talk about design thinking without these five steps or these five areas: the empathize, the define, the ideas, the prototype text, and sometimes you can have a loop also. And what it's all about empathy, you know, empathizing with the users. It's actually understanding where they live, who they are. So who they are could be, you know, their regions, their name, their cultures, their standard of living, how much you earn in a month, and how, that could really understand, okay, what's the annual, income of the type of people who are experiencing the problem you're looking at. Okay, so how have they been able to solve that problem, right, at the moment? So how are they going along? Is it a painkiller? Is that problem, if it's solved, is it going to be like, paracetamol or a vitamin? Because a vitamin will just, nourishes, but paracetamol is a painkiller that actually takes out pain. So when your product or whatever you're going to produce, is it going to be a painkiller or just a vitamin? So you also need to understand. And if your product is a vitamin, you would find it difficult to break into the market. It's hard find it difficult to even people to buy your product. So it has to make sure that it is a painkiller, and that is why it comes to where you're looking at your, in the importance and the ease when you're developing your product as an MVP, looking at products that you take the when you're developing a product features or problems that you want to solve that are high importance but also require very low resources to implement. Now, so when you're able to know who your customer is, how they feel, how they live, how they've been catching up, who and all the factors you really need to consider. So you are really trying to empathize. So you put yourself in their shoes. So even though it might be a significant problem, would they be willing? If I'm in this position, will I be willing to put so resources to this when I have so level of problems? Is this something that I can, this problem, is this something I place higher than all some of these problems? Do I have, or if not, if I place more priorities to other problems, do I have left out resources that I could also use to solve this? So you really need to really point to that point where you understand this. That's why the empathizing. So when you empathize with your users or alongside your customers, if they are different, then you start defining the problem, making a problem statement. And then so you define what the problem is, and then you try to ideate which is the solution part. You try to define the solution. What solution are you proposing to solve that problem that you have been able to empathize? And then when you're able to define the solution of what you want, and then you are dating, so defining the problem, and then you are dating this around the solution, brainstorming and all that. The next is to now start prototyping. So you want to put in whether it's a digital code, okay, use Figma and try to use something as a prototype where you could click one after the other or use no code platforms to really test out what you want and take these things to that's when you move to the test to test it to the people where that needs it or people who are planning it and get their feedback. Sometimes it could be low fidelity prototypes or called high fidelity prototypes. High fidelity prototypes could be like, oh, okay, it's already coded, and then you might want to really test it out. Can people willing to pay for that? If it's a low fidelity product, you also want to get their feedback as to what they think, or is it something that they really want, and also you know one key thing that you really need to know if your customers will be willing to buy your product when you are doing a low fidelity test. After they use it, after they test it out, please do not ask them whether they will be willing to buy or what they would like to buy. Majority of them will tell you yes. Yes, they will tell you yes. So, but please do not go to the point of asking them would they be willing to buy, but ask them what are this. Well, try to find out if there are what is their spending culture. Have they in the past 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 1 month been able to buy something similar to your product? It mustn't be like a particular product, but something of some aggregate value. And if they have not done that in the last 1 year, 6 months, 1 month, then it's a clear indication that even when they tell you that they will be willing to buy, they will buy, they might not be willing to buy. And even when they are willing to buy, they might not have the capacity to buy. It's very critical. So we talk about the empathize, you conduct user research, to understand your user needs, pain points, behaviors, use techniques like interview surveys and all that to really get to understand this. And so you also need to look at just understand that empathy really involves understanding your user needs, emotions, and experiences. So while you're conducting a user research, so you need to get insight into behaviors, preferences, and pain points. So it's very, very important to really need to understand that. That's what empathy is. And if you don't empathize to really understand who your user is, you will find it difficult to have a successful product. That's why key design thinking is very, very important and effective in getting out, a wonderful product out there during your product development journey. Now, the next one is define. So I'm going to really and the top six I will really kind of explain and give into details in the first slide. So here we're talking about synthesize research finding into user personas. So you're trying to create user personas and problem statements and frame the problem in a human-centric way. So the problem has to also be framed in such a way that the human being is at the center, the user is at the center of that problem you're framing. So it's very, very key. So please develop a clear statement that addresses the core challenges faced by your users. This helps you in framing the problem in a way that resonates with the end users. It's very key, please. Now we talk about the ideate. Now here you're talking about brainstorming ideas with cross-functional teams, encourage, it should also encourage wide ideas and diverse perspective. And it's something that also I want to point out that while you are doing and gathering cross-functional, functional team, while you're gathering a cross-functional team to brainstorm on the idea, in place, encourage diverse perspective, right? So it could be kind of a mixture of gender. It is something that has to be the product has to be of used by two different genders, the male, female, or if your product is maybe the users are female but your customers could be male, or your users could be children, and the customers could be customers could be their parents. So at this case point in time, you really need to also work with the customers to really understand, especially the mothers, now to really understand and empathize. And then this time around, it shouldn't be mothers that is just maybe about to give birth, or probably just giving birth to a child, but probably mothers have had one or two inside birth, one or two, giving birth two times or so, that can really, or at least once, and have lived into that journey of that cycle of at least from 0 to 1 year. So it's to really kind of really understand this whole process of ideation. And again, is please always foster an open environment for sharing innovative solutions. Remember, during this stage, no idea is too wide. So please keep it open, keep your ideas card. Idea comes in, don't throw it away, put it there, keep taking it on quadrant. Now, is this idea stage? I'm probably going to have a quadrant. I start putting it there, just throwing it out there, put it on your card. Ideas comes in, don't do not get into the point of scrutinizing the idea at the moment, because if you start scrutinizing one idea, you lock up the creative expansion of the arrays of idea you'll get. So just focus on getting the ideas out, how many ideas you need to get out, brainstorm and get the ideas out and keep pushing the ideas out until you are dry from the ideas, so you cannot come back and start picking the ideas and start looking at it and start, arranging them into the okay, start looking at it thoroughly and looking at the ones that it has low importance and also more expensive to invest. Okay, you can put it in a quadrant that really fits that point. So, but at this point, no ideas is too wide. Just get all ideas out. Now, at this time where we're going to be like moving into the point where you want to transform these ideas that you have selected, you have put into the point where you want to start with the ones that are of high importance but requires low resources or low risk. So, so at this point, you are transforming your ideas into tangible prototypes. This can be low fidelity presentation of a product. Rapidly iterate and refine these prototypes based on feedback. Prototypes helps visualize concepts and allow for early testing. So it could also be low fidelity or a little bit of high fidelity, depending on the type of product you're working on and the kind of functionality is given. At this point in time, it's about gathering feedback from potential users through user testing. So you just need to take it out there and test. So depending on what you want, depending on how, maybe if you're running a platform that has to be ad based, so you need your users to get test. But if you're also having something that you need, maybe a product that you need people to buy, then you probably need to really identify what we call early adopters. So please really, really understand what early adopter that can be. This can also come in place of surveys and this thing to really know whether they have done something, whether they have bought something that they know that is going to is a house full of bugs, or is not so standard and they're ready to try it out and put their money in there. There are people who are quite very early testers depending on the type of product. So if you're able to identify early adopters, then those people, and you need your product to be sold at that moment, like you need people to give to the product so that you can return back money. So you need to target at that moment, not maybe later adopters or later adopters. You need to target the early adopters and need to understand that by their behaviors in the past, what they have done in the past, and all that. That's what the interviews and surveys is really going to give them. So really ask open-ended questions. Don't really cause unnecessary questions. please ask open-ended and don't ask a person like, oh, will you be willing to buy this? And no. Try to find the kind of similar things that they, if they have bought, to see how to really understand, how they could be wired to buy this or not to buy make that. So with that, you could really see people who you see as early adopters and take that approach. It's very critical for you to do that, please. So it's very, very critical. And now at this point, we want to look about what's an MVP, because when you test your prototype and all that, and you do for iteration tests, and all that, it gets to the point where you are ready to get to that minimum viable product into the market. And it's always the best. Please do not try to build out every part of your product or make it like, oh, 100% full before you launch, because you probably will not launch. And if probably sometimes if you even end up launching, you're already setting yourself for failure. So move as fast as possible, you know, and always use this technique. Your MVP should be about painkillers, not vitamins. So try as much as possible to take out a lot of vitamins around your MVP and focus on the painkillers. And also focus on those ones that require very low resources to implement but high importance to the users. With this, you could really test the acceptability. If it's not going to be acceptable, you have not wasted so much money and resources. And if it's acceptable, then it can move out, at pace and move as much as possible. So this is also when you talk about, I want to talk about, okay, the product development process. In here, you're going to see, the ideation to the idea screening, idea generation to just go concept development and testing. Now, you're moving into the point of market strategy development, business analysis, now to the full product development, to the point of market testing, to commercialization. Now, the full product development today we're talking about now is the point of your MVP, right? And then you're doing market testing, you put your MVP to market, and then you after the market test, you want to scale, you want to grow. That's kind of the whole commercialization we are talking about. So, and then you want to develop another product, or you want to kill it and start up again. You take the cycle. So it's like a loop. And when I say you kill a product and start up another product, or you tweak a product, so when you try to tweak a product or change a particular product, what it is, have a very significant change, you also need to go through this process. And this is also what it really looks like in the product life cycle. So all we have been saying is in stage one, when you discover and development. So the product discovery and development. So to the point of introduction into the market, that is the market testing. So at that moment is really where the product development cycle is ending. Right. So here with the stage three, you're talking about growth, maturity. We can really name growth, products are already in maturity level, and then they decline. Up in our head, you can probably see, if not dead, DVDs or CDs already going into extinction. I will call cassette, those ones are dead. So there's already a decline. So there's a decline in that regard. So it's very important for us to really know what this is and how we go about it. It's very significant that we understand this. So first is the discovering of the problem and empathizing, product development to market introduction, growth, maturity, then decline. Then at that moment of decline is where we probably need to reintroduce a new product or modify or tweak or to really get to really introduce a new product into the market that could be really meet up the current market taste and current market demands or current market trends or user tests, because these days this cycle is getting shorter and shorter because the consumer taste is facing innovation is at a high speed and consumer taste is moving at a very it's changing at a very high speed. So it's very important for us to all really recognize this and make sure that we always know that our products we are introducing to the market wouldn't stay for eternity. So first is let's really look at about the overcoming challenges in product development. Like, so what are the challenges we really going to overcome? So excuse me. So startups often, I want really want us to understand that startups often face challenges like limited resources. We all know majority of us we always have limited resources. Always have limited resources. So it's sorry about that. Sorry about my kata, please. Sorry about that. Okay, so limited resources, timelines, tight, very timelines. You really need to have expectations of getting into the market and all that. Uncertainties, you don't even know whether your product is going to work. There's no certainty about it. There's no data that shows that, oh, if you do this will work. And also a lot of challenges you find a way to mitigate prioritizing tasks, which of this is important at the moment, but trying to balance, you know, long term to short term goals and all that. So it's really, really a very dicey situation. So these are the challenges. So and this because of limited resources, you need to prioritize. Prioritize is very, very key. Prioritize is very, very key. You need to focus on minimum viable products. It should always be painkillers, not vitamin. So focus on the minimum viable product. Don't try to build all everything robust before you hit the market or test, please. So if you can bootstrap, find creative ways to minimize costs, such as using open source tools, collaborating with freelancers, to using maybe leveraging sections like this to really get to understand like bonuses, discounts, like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, or quite a whole lot of them, or you know, hotspots for startups and all that, where you can get discounts. Really, really, you might not get money, but you can actually get credits to really get to minimize so much of cost, hosting costs and all that. Please leverage. And don't forget to leverage and your networks. Tap into your personal and professional network for advice, mentorship, and potential partnership. So sometimes things you can probably do from scratch, a partnership could make a lot of things for you, could make that changes for you, and could take a whole lot of burden out of you. Because also things that you can outsource, please outsource, especially things that are not at the heartbeat of your unique value proposition. But it's important for you to, but it is also important for you to bring it. But it's just like, if you are building maybe a machine, a mechanical equipment, and you just try to design your own boat, it doesn't make sense, right? So you just really stand on the boat, you buy in the market and put. So try as much as possible to do what to outsource as what is not your kind of unique value proposition or intellectual properties, or things that are not so much that is out there. If you can outsource, please do outsource. And sometimes those outsourcing could come from partnerships, and then around you also building teams, having a significant team. Build your team to the point where, if you can, that you can get an MVP without even spending so much, or probably because I've seen startups the way the points, especially the software points, where you could meta startups where you could have the right teams to be able to take your stuff to the point of an MVP, and even host it to people to test it out. I'll probably get cloud queries to run, maybe from Meta to LinkedIn to run adverts, and social media to really get users to test it out, to hosting it from maybe AWS or Azure, Microsoft Azure and all that. So you really going to leverage and then you almost spending very little to getting your MVP. So these are quite measures you can really take about when it comes to limited resources. And again, time constraint, please always be agile. Take an agile approach. Very, very important. And always understand the certainties and risk. So, and because of certainties and risk, I will always say, please adopt this the startup approach by adopting the lean startup principles. Validate assumptions and hypotheses through quick experiments and prototyping. You have to be very fast, adopt test. For every assumption you have made, please test it. Try find a ways to create hypotheses. As you create those assumptions and hypotheses, put them into a quick experiment and prototype and test them. Please do not list so much of critical, especially painkillers, into assumptions and hypotheses. Always test them and then iterate your testing as you get the feedback and all that. So it's very, 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 very key to getting these things done. It's very, very, very key to understanding how we go about adopting processes that allows us to work with limited resources, with time constraints, because sometimes are really battling with that, and then uncertainty and risk, which is very huge. The risk is high, the uncertainties are quite very high and volatile. So you also need to take, you know, approach that really try to mitigate those uncertainties and risk. So, which is our for now. Well, let's really dive into the point of a case study that's of product development using design thinking. So, because of conceptualization, I really want us to really understand that everything starts could really shoot all your process of ideation, all your process of product development should start with empathy. And also know understand that it is a process. So whatever you are building, you are designing is a process. So this is a real life, design thinking example. And then looking at this, what is this? So I know most of us will not really recognize this. But let's take a route of what it is, and they're probably going to read from the screen for really to really guide us through of what I'm all talking about in this case study because it's very critical for us to understand this. Students at Stafford School were challenged to design a less expensive incubator for babies born prematurely in Nepal. The students traveled to Nepal, so they have to get to the customer or the users where they are facing the problem. So you need to meet the users and customers where they live, where they are, and not, you know, even try to call them your own comfort zone because there are so many gestures that words can might not say, but body language is describe the environment is going to tell you even more deeper. So they all traveled to meet the families and doctors and see the problem for themselves. During the trip, they were exposed to the angst of parents who were not able to save their children, to save their premature babies. See the passion, see the emotions flaring up, see the pain really that you don't understand the pain and where it's paining the most. So you start to really help you to really empathize rightly. This mission of empathy helps them to find what the users were and their problem was. The student discovered that there were, in fact, many donated incubators in the hospital. So the issue where the of premature babies were not that they were not incubators or they were not hospitals and they were not incubators. So, but surprisingly, they were mostly empty. They realized that less expensive incubators would not actually solve the problem because these people have incubators. So it wasn't like the incubator wasn't there. Oh, let's get a less expensive incubators that could use and afford. It wasn't that they were not there. But now, since most premature babies were born far from hospitals, in rural areas without access to incubators, regardless of their cost. The students changed their perception of what was needed and began to think about how babies in rural areas could stay warm for long periods of time. So they used pictures, video, storytelling of their experiences visiting Nepal to pinpoint the exact problem and brainstorm solutions. They stopped thinking of the doctors as their users and started thinking about desperate parents who needs to give their babies a chance to survive. So you see, just empathizing how we shifted from the who is your user, actually. With each innovation or prototype that was suggested, they went back to the question on their whiteboard. Are ways helping parents in rural areas save their babies' lives? So whatever you're iterating, always go back to your problem statement and the solution, ideation statement, right? So no matter what the direction, always fall back to that because if you deviate, then you have deviated. The design which was eventually chosen was for an infant warmer, which looks like a mini sleeping bag. It is made of a material which holds heat, so it can be thrown into a pot of boiling water to get hot and will retain the heat for few hours. The baby is wrapped tightly inside the warmer with a special hood to keep the face exposed and still heat the baby head. The baby is kept warm for the amount of time it takes for the parents to reach the nearest hospital, even if it's a few hours away. So, because what is the problem? The problem is before when these babies are given, the children are born prematurely, before they can take them from their home to the hospitals, they are cold and dead. So, what the real problem is not the incubators in the hospitals, to donate the incubators to the hospital, is to actually to take those babies from their home to the hospitals. And so that they could stay alive and stay warm. And you can't have any movable incubators and all that are so expensive. I just as something as a warmer wrapper that could just put in the hot water, bring it out, and then wrap a baby, could still keep a baby about 2 3 hours warm and alive. So it's very key to really understand the key aspect of these things. Thinking from the point of an incubator in the hospitals is design a low value incubators, just looking at the human and the people who really face this problem and do what? Come up with a problem that really solves the user's problem. Sorry, the solution that really solves the user's problem. So it's very key for us to understand this. Okay, the Dropbox story, case study. So I'm going to just really, summarize on this. This is something from a web software point, not a physical product, and you're looking at Dropbox. You know, after founding the company and all that, they needed to really understand to address the frustration of accessing and sharing files across different devices and computers. The concept of cloud storage was not really widely understood at this time and accepted at this time. So the challenge before investing time and resources into building a complex product, the the robust team had to look at, okay, we needed to validate that there was a demand for this idea and that potential users understood the value proposition. So how this is the first thing they needed to advertise on. So what did they do? So they decided to create a simple, the simple video demonstration of how products would look like instead of building the entire software. They made a 3-minute screenshot video that showcased the user experience and benefits of Dropbox. The video features, the founder explaining the pain points of traditional file systems and the benefits of cloud-based storage and synchronization, and a visual walkthrough of how the Dropbox application will look like. The video concluded with a call to action for viewers to sign up for early access. The results? Amazing. The Dropbox video was posted, and they hack around different platforms and other related websites, and the response was really overwhelming. With a short time, thousands of people signed up for the waiting list, showcasing strong interest in the product. So this really validated the demand for a solution from Dropbox that people are willing to do what turn into. And there's an early access, there's a cost implications and all that, and people are signing into it early access. Just like you will see what you know a lot of companies like Starlink and the rest of them signing early access that people can build and say, oh, just do a commitment. And with that, they could also know, okay, we have some substantial people putting 20%, 10%, or even full commitment. That okay, this is really a demand. And we can, if you have a target of 1 month, and if we can get that target in 1 month or even less, then we really have, you know, a market to really solve, to really go all out there to get into the mass. So it's very important that the one of the key takeaways we need to look at these things is simplicity matters. Validation first is also one key thing we also look at. And the user-centric approach is always there. So the users will always be at the center of what we do. So what are the tips of implementing or product development leveraging design thinking or integrating design thinking into product development? If you have a team, please always have a team buy-in. Communicate the benefits of design thinking in driving innovation and customer satisfaction with your team, with your stakeholders across board. You need to have their buy-in so that everybody stands on one path. The second is always have a cross-functional collaboration. Encourage collaboration between different teams or product, whether it's product or marketing or design or engineering, to bring diverse perspective to problem, because I think that marketing could want to promise to the public by engineering, but like, oh, like how are we going to build this? Do you understand what we're talking about? Do you understand how? So let that be that cross-functional collaboration is very key. So to understand what the user problem is, the solution you're forming, and then the buildability of that solution too. Training and workshops. So you really need to also provide some training sections as you know to finish these things. Go back to your team and then try to have this training and workshops, or trying to have a mini workshop of these things for them to really understand the importance of design thinking methodologies as to product development. So ensure that your team understand the principle, the stages, and the tools of design thinking. And another is always have a customer or user centric mindset. Instill in yourself a customer first mindset across your organization. You first and then across your organization. And always regularly share customer feedback, stories, and insights to remind the teams of the importance of the user needs. And very importantly, empathize building, like have that empathy building. Organize empathy building activities like shadowing customers, conducting user interviews, and observing user behaviors. These activities will definitely help your team to connect with users' experiences and needs in a very extraordinary manner. So, and always try to have an open ideation section. Gather your teams from marketing to the point. Sometimes when you're doing the ideation, it's not really about the technicalities or how it's going to be like. Let's all look at these things all together. It's very critical for us to understand this. And more so, if fair fast, learn faster. So do not try to make, if you have to make a mistake, make it early, don't make it late. Promote a culture that embraces failure as a learning opportunity, and also encourage your team to experiment and iterate very quickly on ideas. Learning from both sections and successes and failures is very important. And always do design reviews. Schedule regular design reviews where teams present and discuss from different teams, from marketing, from sales to to business development people, to the product designers or the dev or the hardware people, as the case of the product review. Always have that design reviews and let people see it from these perspectives and facilitate a constructive feedback session to refine ideas and solutions is very, very critical. And always ensure continuous improvement, embed high design thinking languages, lead by example. So it should be leadership by example. And we'll also understand that if you're into startup, you're into long-term commitment. Understand that integrating design thinking into your startup culture is a long-term commitment. It's not one thing you just do and just have one section and everybody grabs it and relates. As part of your work as a lead or CEO or the MD is to always keep reiterating this. The vision, the approach, and why the customer needs is very critical. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate if I have questions or questions, drop it in the comment sections, and I will be glad to really attend to all of them.
Uh, all right, thank you, Mr. Felix. This is Lukman, assistant to the program manager. It's awesome having you on the session today. So I believe everybody enjoys the program, and if you have any question, like it rightly said, this is time for Q&A. Please kindly drop your question on the uh, chat box so that he can attend to you one after the other. Thank you.
Also, please could you kindly fill the attendance sheet? The link is in the comments. Thank you very much.
So Mary Kantabi is asking, can you explain the stage one again? So when you mean by stage one, are you referring to empathy, like empathizing? Is it what you're telling on the stage? So please, Mary, if you can hear me, just you could just put on the chat yes, so that I could really know to really address what you are looking for or what your question is. So Fred is saying, hope to learn some new approaches to adopt in my business idea to bring them out. So I hope the sections have really met this expectation. Fred SM, I hope that it has met expectations and you have people from health. Okay, Ayomide is from Bit Art Technologies Nigeria. Okay, so if you can hear me, please, if I can just get your on the clarity on what you mean by stage one. Again, is it stage one? Is it in the part of empathy? Let me push my screen back. So, is it in the part of empathize? Is it this you're talking about? So, okay, let me just assume that it is, and really, really want to point it out first. So, what I mean by empathize, empathy involves understanding your user needs, emotions, and experiences. So, conducting user is research to get insight into behaviors, preferences, and pain points is very critical. Using techniques like interview surveys and observations to gather qualitative and quantitative data is very helpful. So you need to really look at things from the point of view of I want to really engage these people from where they are standing from where we are standing from. Like what is that point where where they live, what's their experiences, what's their life like, what. So you can also look at define your user personas by looking at location geographics. Are they in urban or rural or semi-urban? Are they in what is the grade age group? So and then age group, what are the things likely going to be? If it's young Gen Zs or millennials, or age group that certain things they could vibe into. What are also the realities? If they are users, but they probably we need to understand if they are probably maybe teenagers that can't afford, but probably be bought by their parents. So do you really understand how you take that? Okay, these are teenagers that need this, but also the parents will have to buy. So how do I get to approach the marketing from the parents' point, but also solve the problem from the point of the user? So it's very critical to really understand this thing. So Bright is saying, what is the best way to get users feedback from a prototype when it is a software you are trying to sell? So if it's a so when you mean a prototype, it is an MVP already, which means you have a product built out. Then it's a different thing. But when you say a prototype, it could be a Figma prototype, right? We also need to really understand, but I'm going to discuss both of them so that it also gives you anybody perspective in that. So if let's say a Figma prototype, like a non-functional prototype, right? So what it really requires from you is to have people interact with the product. And then so fill up surveys and people to start your product, or have an early call list that you have in the waiting list. If you have already done that, you will really be the one to try your alpha of the product. Then you're not trying to sell, but you're trying to give people early access. So reward them for giving you feedback of try before you get to your MVP. So at that moment, you really want to get the feedback of their user experience. You want to get the feedback of their so you want to really ask open-ended questions, or probably maybe have a customer interview. Maybe they take them after a few, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. You send them an email and schedule a call with them, request for a call with them. They accept, especially the ones you have that have higher activity rates, and discuss about the experiences. Why what they don't they like in this stuff? Let them be on open-ended stuff to really get the feedback from them. Most times, maybe filling a form, might not really be always get out one. So you can have an interview, a one-on-one call, which these days you can drop in a Zoom or Google Meet, or as the case may be. All these people who have given access to this and then get their feedback out. So as we said, quite early prototype, not an MVP, could give these guys early access to use a product, but why you are able to really get a substantive feedback. But if it's an MVP you are trying to test, so if it's an MVP you are trying to test, then you are looking at a situation where you want to define what I call early adopters, because at that MVP you want people to pay money for. So, and it's not everybody that's going to pay money to for something that probably will have bugs that will break, right? The likelihood that to break or whatever that could go wrong. So you need to identify people by early adopters. And how do you identify early adopters? Is by identifying their purchasing behaviors in the past. What they have they tried something that is they know is not too sure, it's not too fixed, probably play the game that it just work and they still play it, still in process stages, and they find have they really been in a better stages, try to use product like okay insiders, or use products maybe WhatsApp better to try to do something that they know that it can break, but they're excited about having been the part of the people who probably going to see those features. So these are like early adopters, people who are ready to try things. So these are the people you want to really get the feedback and sell to, not the main adopters or later stage or late adopters or late adopters. So it's very critical for us to really understand this. So that's back to Mary. Mary is saying that okay, the product life cycle, stage one. So when we talk about product life cycle, let me pull that up to the screen. Okay. Okay, so I guess this is it. So when we mention about the stage one, So the stage one is basically what we have been saying here. Stage one and stage two, the ideation, the empathy, the definition, problem definition, the ideation, the prototyping, the testing, and all that are all fall in the stage one. So it's the product development stage. So the introduction is also part of stage. Product development is market introduction. That's when you're getting into your MVP, you are ready to introduce to the market, or you have to introduce to the market. And so it's also, so this too, it can be a combination of a product life cycle, like the one. So all we have really discussed so much here is around stage one, because you're developing your product. You're on stage of product development. So that stage is discovery, which is your empathy, the definition, on all those things, defining your problems to all takes around design thinking and product development, right? So it's really around that's stage one. All we have said and how to mitigate and all that is really around the stage one. And then the point where you want to get to the market, like market introduction. So you can have the product development around the stage one and part of stage two. But when you get to the stage two fully, it's like, you have a product in the market, have an MVP, you're trying to get quite a whole lot of customer test feedbacks and all that. And then you've probably gotten some a lot of feedback. You want to go wide. You probably want to improve your product to your next level, to what we call that you can now want to grow. You start talking about growth and all that. So at that moment, at that time, you are really getting into the growth stage and then the maturity stage, where you cannot have so much data that, oh, like Coca-Cola, I can have 20 years, 30 years data that, oh, during so seasons, you always have demand for sell. So we always ramp up to increase. So at this time, it's like really maturity point. So and they also need to also take care that, it is life cycle that this product can phase out. So at that moment, if it start declining, then you also need to make, so either you trade that project back to what is trending, or you kill it and replace it with another new product, because sometimes some disruptive innovation technologies could make it that even when you want to create it, it's just like somebody trying to create a typewriter. It doesn't make sense. So sometimes you kill a product and get to the next level of innovation. So that's this thing. So I think, okay, thank you, Bright. So Shaban is talking about how can a startup founder mitigate against bias during design thinking, considering there are several types of bias. So first is, you should always not be emotional with your idea, but be emotional with the customer. Empathize. Apply that emotion not to yourself or to your idea, but to their problems and to the customer users. So that's kind of where you can really mitigate it. So you really want to be in the situation of the customer, not living on your own rent or trying to design thinking you're using on your own rent. Because where the barriers will come out fully is when you are there thinking about how the customer is having this problem from your own perspective. That's where you have a lot of bias. So, but when you have that, the major attention is really to understand what the customer is. So you're asking all the problem, you're trying to be in the customer situation to learn their experiences, their behaviors, and all that. You see that definitely your bias, your personal bias, will go down, because you're in the midst of the customer challenges, behaviors, you know, cultural views, and the rest of them, perspectives, and all that. So that's one key way that you could really kill your own personal bias and this process of design, by immersing yourself into the customer needs, problems, environment, challenges, behaviors, cultures, and the rest of them. Understand the customer. That is why you are empathizing. You're not empathizing to become the customer. That's why you also say you can empathize. I can empathize with you, but not agree with you. But in this case, you have to agree with the customer, because it's the one that is going to sell the product. But it doesn't mean that you have to agree from one customer, whatever one customer says. That's why you need to spread out your interviews. You need to collect as much as money. So if you're interviewing or trying to experience or interact with maybe 20, 50 customers or prospective customers, And then out of that 50, you probably will see 20 new ideas or things or views that you can actually learn from. Yes, some of them are individually, but you probably will find 5 to 10 of those ones that are all repeating and all of them are all pointing out. Right there, that is what you're going to focus on for your MVP. That's the painkillers. Because that is what painkillers that has mass attention and mass need. So you probably out of the 20, you want to pick what the five. Those painkillers that are almost everybody is talking about that and it's very easy to solve to start with and less resources to start about is very high of importance. Remember the painkillers and the vitamins. So then how is the best way to find out if the customers are willing to okay. Okay, I think are willing to pay for your product without asking them that if they're willing to pay or not. Like I already pointed out, I already said this in my section, if you know, in already during the slide is if I am selling, if I want to sell, if I want to do, I'm running an e-commerce and I want to sell cosmetics, purely maybe an e-commerce that purely on cosmetics. So first is I want to the people I want to really know whether they will be willing to buy is to know whether they have bought product online. Have they bought anything online already? Did they buy online? Did they have initials or maybe issues is buying from Jumia or the existing platforms, or even from buying from Instagrams or buying from online or WhatsApp people and all that? Do they have so much constraint to do that? So you really want to understand their behaviors. So if they tell you, oh, majority part of the time that what we do is to we buy I spend more time. I don't want to go out. So if we even buy food, you go to Jumia Food or Glovo and or order their food, then it really tells you that if that they will be willing to actually also come to to buy online. So at least you understand that the people we are talking with, you have people who are ready to also buy online. Now, another thing you need to okay, so have they bought similar products or have they used similar products? Even though there are challenges, okay, have they used similar products that you are using or you are going to offer them, even though your own might have a very unique proposition, value proposition than what you're always, but have they used similar products in the past? Maybe have they bought cream in the past? Somebody like somebody like me that I probably will use one cream for 6 months or 1 year. All right. So you want to market creams, it might become an issue, right? Or some people might serve them cream every month, they're changing creams, right? So they don't miss it. Like so you really want to understand what's their purchasing culture, what are behavior about the what are they using, or how fast, or have they even bought cream the last 1 year, or are they bought because I'm talking about cosmetics now, right? So you really need to understand that. So first, have they been willing to buy online, and then also have they even been willing, have they bought something from you, even though it's not online, but have they bought something like this online, or have they attempted? What is their also, you know, and if they have not, what is the issues with not wanting to buy certain things online? Is there from their life experiences or lived experiences on the past or whatever? And if such a thing, if they can get guarantee that, or not having so much risk put in place, would they be willing to buy or change their mind? So these are the things you really need to frame up your question. You know your product better, you know your startup better, but you need to sit down. It's a very serious work to sit down and really to understand after empathizing this or really understand and draft all those questions. It's very big work. So, but I wish you could. I know you can do it though. So I think what's it saying? Mary was also so. What's the best way to find? Okay, I think I already answered that. So if no more questions, I think I might call it a day. I think, and I hope I've been able to. It just caught my attention if there's any question I missed. But hopefully, I think I have already understand. And thank you all for answering the questions. The best part of my section is always the question part. I enjoy answering questions. I enjoy answering questions because that's for me that I don't expect that maybe everybody just going to understand every single thing and then or whatever I'm going to say is going to meet everybody's individual needs at the same time. But with questions, it allows us to do what? To allows us to really ask things from our own perspective and can really get a customized answer or tailored answer to it. So I enjoy answering questions, and thank you so much for Shaban, Mary, Bright, and the rest of the people who have been able to join and ask fantastic questions. Thank you so much, and over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Felix. And I myself, I enjoyed the session with you. So I believe every other person on this session also enjoys it. So for to our participants, uh, if you can say thumb up, I mean, or rather, send thumb up through the comment section to say thank you to Mr. Felix. We really appreciate that. So, and for if there's any other question apart from what you just asked, because sometimes you may forget to ask. But don't forget, we still have group on the WhatsApp group. It still exists, so you can put through your question. Then Pascal will do justice to that. Then tomorrow is another day, and we'll be having our session tomorrow by 10 a.m. Please don't forget. And another thing is the attendance, which the attendance is very important. So because that's what we're going to use to know who is also participating in full, like who is engaging with the session time. Then we use that one to score every single participant. So it is very important you fill the form. I believe they've sent the link. The link was sent earlier. So if you scroll through the comment section, you should be able to find the link there, the to fill the attendance. So please don't forget to do that. Okay, I'm sending the link again. So check the comment section. You should see it there, so you can fill the attendance. So Mr. Felix, thank you so much. We look forward to engaging you in the next one. Thank you. And for everyone, I hope to see you tomorrow by 10 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, thanks. Bye.